Alright, here we are one more time, another setup. So today we are here for, what's the track's name again? Jeddah Corniche Circuit in Saudi Arabia. So a setup that I'm using is modified from the world record setup. The same setup that I use now, I just had a PB a few days ago, as you can see here. Well, more like 10 days ago, 11 days ago. So yeah, there's a lot of potential, a lot of miss apexes here and there, not carrying enough speed into the corner, not going on the power quick enough. Jeddah is a pretty tough circuit for me to nail on a one lap pace at least. But in a race, it's quite a nice track to race on because with low aero you can just torture people on the straights. You can overtake them quite easily. You can defend from them quite easily, even if they are faster in the corners. Now, let me quickly show you what the world record setup is if you are just going for time trial, just you want to smash lap times or get a good baseline if you want to start off making your own setup. So the world record setup, of course, from Thomas Ronha here, one of the F1 esports contenders for the championship event 4. Who knows what's gonna happen. 1612 is the wings that it's used in time trial. Again, take it with a pinch of salt. Time trial is always a bit less grippy-ish. There's no tire temperatures involved. There's always hot lap on, so it's always beneficial to run slightly higher downforce in time trial so that you gain a lot of time in the corners and you don't lose that much time on the straights, because hot lap mode is enabled 24/7, so you get maximum power all the time on the straights and DRS, of course. But in a race situation, sometimes it's not feasible, and I'll come to that in a short while. Transmission that it's used, 6051, again is the same one that I use. 55, it's a bit more safer, I would say, in high speed. If you get understeer in high speed exits, as you put down the power, you're getting into the wall, maybe you're turning towards the wall. If you're putting down power, maybe you want to reduce it back to 55. The higher you go, of course, it's going to generate a bit more understeer on power. If you go lower, it will allow you to get less understeer, not per se get more turn in. It's going to reduce the understeer that you get once you go on power. Right, off throttle 51, understandable, because you want to keep it slightly higher than usual. Not usually it's 50, so that the rear rotates quite freely. You want that in slow speed corners, but in high speed circuits, high speed tracks like this, it's kind of beneficial to run 51 or 52, just so the rear doesn't slide out too much, especially in sector 1 SS and a lot of the high speed chicane that you're going to take and probably face the wall. So that's a good reason to keep it like this. Geometry, no secrets about this. I think every setup that I've done, every setup that I'll do, and in the setup explanation that will release towards the end of the month, it's gonna be the same thing here. All right, right, that means minimum camber, that gives you best stability, and then minimum toe all the way to the left. Good enough. Suspension that is used for the world record setup, 21, 51, 95 ride height. Now the lower you go on the front suspension, that's gonna allow the front of the car to squat even more or dive even more into a corner, and the lower your car goes, the more turn in it creates. All right, so that's gonna increase your cornering speed. Not necessarily the fastest way in some corners, of course, depending on the rest of your setup. If your setup is already understeered to begin with, you can lower the front suspension so that the front of the car turns in even more. If your setup is already oversteered to begin with, that means it easily glides into a corner. Say you're running wings like this and you decide to go maybe 18 wing, and the front of the car becomes too pointy, you can increase the front suspension so that the car is not too pointy into a corner. Now let's go back to the explanation of this itself. A rear suspension and anti-roll bar, always keep it at 1 because that is going to give you the best stability in corner exits, corner entry, and mid corner as well. Going to give you good traction. One rear suspension gives you good traction out of slow speed, high speed, any type of corners. Low rear anti-roll bar, it's going to give you stability while you're cornering, and also in high speed change of direction, it's going to make the car a bit more stable. In the last game, you can always increase it so that the rear turns in more into a corner, a bit more responsive. But with the ground effect cars, it's recommended in this game at least to keep the rears as soft as possible. Front right height is run at 9 here. Seems a bit high compared to real life, but ignore real life for a moment. We are in a game and it's simcade. So front right height at 9. Then make sure the front of the car is not squatting too much on the curbs, so there's quite a big clearance to the curbs on track. If it's too low, the front of your car is going to scrape the floor, and that's going to cause your front to lose grip, and that's where your car is going to spin out. Same thing for the rear. If your rear of the car is too low to the ground, when it's low to the ground, it's okay usually. If you're on a straight line, or if you're not taking a curb on exit, that's going to increase the amount of grip you have on exit. But if you have to take a curb into a corner, or coming out of corner, or any part of the cornering face, you want it slightly raised so that you can take the curb in this game. Line 5 is a good recommended place to start, but I found this very snappy, especially when you want to accelerate on the curbs, and I'll come to the changes that I did in my custom setup. And yeah, 5 front anti-roll bar, that's just standard. You want the car to move a bit while you're cornering so that you can get the car rotated, but not too much. So you can go a little bit stiffer because you want some mid corner and high speed change of direction stability. Brakes 150. You did notice I used 51 on the last corner. That's so the rear doesn't slide out as I'm trail braking into the last corner. Everywhere else you can use 50. It's just fine. Again, personal preference. Time trial tire pressures are always like this, nutty, but don't care about it. Minimum fronts gives you best turn in, most grip on the front. Maximum rears give you a lot of rear end stability for time trial. Now, is this a good setup to use for your races? Yes, a good baseline at least. You want to make sure you reduce the tire pressures to at least 3 clicks here. Rear pressures to 3 clicks, front pressure leave it as it is. And if you see on the hard tires, the tires are like below 90 degrees Celsius, then you can definitely increase 2 or 3 clicks. Make sure they're at least 90 degrees Celsius so that the tires have enough grip in them throughout your stint. And then when you go on to the mediums in your race, naturally it's going to feel quite grippy as well. It gives you a good amount of grip and stability in the race. So that's how you gauge how much tire pressure you need. Take the hard tires, take maximum fuel, and see if they're reaching at least 90 or 91 degrees Celsius. Okay, now let's go on to the fun part where I tell you what I did with my own setup and why I did it. All right, and in a race situation, you want to be using lower downforce because it's going to be easier to overtake someone. It's also going to be easier to defend against someone on the straights. As you know, there's 3 DRS zones, on the back straight, on the pit straight, and also, well, the back straight, before the sector 3 starts. So at the start, towards the end of sector 2, there's a long straight before the hotel section. That's the first DRS zone of the lap, and then the second one is after that hotel chicane and the back straight, the long one where Max and Lewis collided. That's the second DRS zone, and third one is right after that, on the last corner all the way to the first corner. So 3 DRS zones back to back to back. And if you're within 1 second of someone, it's a good place to be in, so that you can just follow them through the middle sector and then launch an attack wherever you want. Now, lower downforce like this, 13.8 is what I went for. You can go 1 click higher, 2 clicks higher, whichever you want. The world record is 16.12 here. Again, it's for time trial. You have to try it out in Grand Prix mode at least, or in an online session. Only then you will know how much downforce you need. I tried it. I feel okay to go as low as 13.8. Any lower than that and I'm losing a lot of time in the SS in sector 1. You have to carry a lot of momentum into the corner. So if you're good on your brakes and your turning and your acceleration, even with low downforce, you'll be carrying as much speed as those who are running high downforce. So hence why low downforce is king in this track. Maybe on the race start, if you feel you need more downforce on the front, go up a click. In the pits, you can always reduce the front wing by 1 or 2, depending on how much you want to reduce, so that with lighter fuel your car is also quicker and it's easier for you to manage the car. It does not get overly oversteery in the race. Transmission, I did try 55 and 60, about the same, but I prefer 60 and 51 off throttle. Now I've changed that in the race, but I didn't save the setup in time trial in my when I went to the race session. You can use 50 for qualifying, which will be recommended. For the race, I'd say go 51 so that it's stable on high speed with heavy fuel and less grippy tires, being the mediums and hards. 60 on throttle, pretty nice. In the race, maybe you can go 65, 60, 55, whichever you want it. Geometry, again, is the same, not gonna touch it. Suspension is where always the magic happens to cater the balance of the car. You want it more oversteery, you want it more understeery, you want more like entry speed, you want more exit speed, you want more, well, I don't know, mid corner speed. Everything you can do it here. Now front suspension, you can raise it as you want. Rear suspension, keep it at 1 so that, like I said, gives you best traction, best stability overall. Front suspension, mainly you can feel the difference on corner entries and well, on acceleration a little bit on the exit, but mainly on the entry. If you feel the car is a bit sluggish to enter the corner, you've tried increasing the aero, decreasing the aero, whatever, and the car is still a bit sluggish, try reducing the front suspension 1 click at a time. Okay, so as you saw in the world record setup was 2-1. It was a little too pointy for me in the middle sector and the chicanes, so I raised it up to 4. And then what I found was mid corner as well, the car was turning it a little too much. When I put down the power, the car just wants to snap, so the front is just a little too loose. So I increased it all the way to 9 or 10. Both are fine. I didn't go all the way to 11, it was a little too stiff, so 9 or 10 is just a good balance here. And if you feel a lot of understeer mid corner, say like while you're turning at the SS, perhaps take a look at the aero. Maybe you want to increase the front wing by 1, or you may want to reduce the front roll bar by 1. That will solve your understeer and high speed. Ride height, yes, another magic. World record was using a 9.5 setup like this. I increased the rear to 7 because it gives a bit more ground clearance, and whenever I accelerate on a curb, it does not spit the car out, and I can take the curb, especially at sector 1 towards the end of the S section. There's always the curbs where you have to ride it while accelerating on it. Having a higher ride height just gives you that extra clearance that you need. Front ride height, I increased it to 10 just so the car was not too pointy into a corner, otherwise it was spinning me around. Brakes 150, again, no questions about it. Tire pressures quite standard. Start off with minimum on the front and start with maybe minimum also on the rear. I'll say that's the best way to start, or you can also start off like middle for tire pressures on the rear, and then you go down as you need. Jeddah being a track where there's a lot of straights, the 3 DRS zones back to back, you cool down your tires a lot, so you can afford to run higher tire pressures overall, maybe 2 clicks at least on the front and 5 on the rear. You should be fine. But if you notice your tire temperatures are spiking, maybe on a controller, maybe on a keyboard, maybe on the wheel, or if you have a very understeery setup, you have too high downforce for some reason, your tires are gonna heat up a lot more. So you want to make sure you have tire temperatures around 90 degrees Celsius on hard tires with full fuel load. That means your 50% race fuel load. All right, if you reach about 90, 91, 92 around there in the race, that's okay. That's perfect temperatures that you need. Qualifying, you can always go higher or lower. You want to make sure they're around 93, 94, 95. Any higher than 97, I feel in qualifying it always starts to feel a bit wanky. Okay, so there you go. Setup once again, 13.8 on the wings, 60-51 transmission, right, left geometry, no changes till the end of the game. 4.1 on the suspension, 10.1 on the anti-roll bars, and 10.7 on the ride height. Brakes 150, just nice. Maybe 51 into the last corner, into the braking zone. And minimum front tire pressures. Start with minimum rear tire pressures, or you can also go 3 clicks for the rear tire pressures. Okay, so that's a zip on the setup. Let's just quickly save it before we have to use it again. And now if you have made it this far, thank you for watching. Leave a like, subscribe as well, and check out the other videos that might pop up towards the end or wherever on top if I remember to put that. Now if you want to end it here, sure, go ahead. If you're sticking for 2 minutes or 3 minutes more, I'll show you the track guide, how to take certain corners around here. By no means I'm the best, of course, as you can see from my Pepega laps, but I'll show you how to take certain corners, what you need to do really, prioritize the entry or prioritize the exit, all those funny things. Now let's have a look at this quickest lap that we did. And heading down into turn 1, you brake around the 100-meter board. In race session, you may be braking somewhere right after the yellow marker here, so between 110 to 120, just so you can make the corner under heavy fuel conditions. So brake 4th gear, you can take a lot of this curve, you can take even more of this curve actually. You can mount the sausage as well, so not a problem. The line that I take was pretty much as I could take. Anymore, if I took, I spit my car out. So just like this, you're gonna notice the car will bump a bit, but you know, keep your steering smooth and you should be okay. And then into the next corner here, you know, the reason why you want to cut this first corner is so that you open up entry and exit for the next corner here. So again, you can take a lot more curb here to be more on the exit, but it's okay. It's gonna make the car a bit bumpy if you take this curb. You can take half of it as long as you take a bit of it or stay tight to it. And then as soon as you hit it, start applying some power very minimally and straighten out the car as quick as you can. The moment your car is like almost straight, you can go full throttle. Don't be afraid to use the exit here. You can see the line, the white line. You can go even more to the left, but I don't want to do that because in a race condition it's pretty easy to spin and hit the wall. So I like to keep a bit of margin for safety here. Safety beats lap time around here for me at least. And then straight exit, keep the car tight, and then bring to the right, and then into this S section. This is where you can gain a lot of time, carry a lot of momentum. So I brake around 75-meter board, brake down to 5th gear, and throw the car in as soon as I pass the black box. So it has to be, you know, very trained eye. You have to train yourself to, you know, look into the apex. But at the same time, as you pass that black box, you turn it. So it's gonna be taking a bit of training to do that, right? You have to practice your laps and you'll find out the optimal turning point for yourself. So I brake around 75 and then turn the car in. You can see there's not much margin left on the left here. You can go a bit tighter if you want. The tighter you go, the more you open up the next part, which is the start of the SS. But I like to keep a bit of margin again, once again, like I said, so that I don't ruin my race. And then as soon as I pass it, a power out of the corner, go up to 6. You can take a lot of the curb here on the exit, stay within track limits. You can accelerate full throttle for a split second here, and then as you're turning here, if you have high downforce, you can keep it flat. If you have a well balanced car, you can keep it flat through the whole section. But with lower aero here, I have to lift off a bit so that I can get the car turned in here. So I'm sacrificing the first part of this SS so that I get a better run towards the end of that SS. So keep it tight, and then I bring it back. I do go a bit wide, but I cut back in to the next part here. So again, you want to stay tight. Let's have a look here. I'm staying tight here, and then not too tight to the left-hander here, but a little bit wider so that I can cut back in and let the car turn itself, and stay as close as you can to this left-hander. And then this right-hander, you just want to flick the car in, but do not take too much of the curb. You can ride a little bit on it, but I don't like to take it fully, otherwise it's gonna spin the car out. Exit curb here, I think this is turn 8 or 9 or whatever it is. This is as much as I could take. Any more than that, it's gonna sort of like drag the car off track because you're riding the curb. So next corner here, pretty important as well. You don't want to apply brakes maybe, but you can lift off from here itself. Lift off a bit and then maybe shift down to 5th if you need. But you can see here I just almost tapped the wall. I think I don't know if I tapped the wall in the run. I have to look back, But yeah, it almost looked like I tapped it, so there was like literally no margin left here, as close as you could get. And then get as tight as you can. Once you passed it, line yourself up for the next left-hander here. Mount the curb as much as you can on the entry here. With good ride height setup, you can take this easily like I did. Alright, and then on the exit, let the car run wide, but you do not want it to run towards the exit, so you have to apply a little bit of steering so that you stay within the track limits. Once you pass this, that's probably half your troubles gone. Now into the end of sector 1, I brake around the 75-meter mark, just after the black box or at the black box for the race. Brake there. In qualifying, you can actually brake at 50 meters, carry more speed. I like to go a bit wide on entry and cut back for the exit, because it keeps the car straight on exit. I somehow don't have the confidence to keep the car, you know, tied into the apex and keep applying power as an exit. So either way, you gain or lose time on the entry or exit, but you're gonna be plus minus about the same. So you can take it tight. On the exit, you can shift up to 6, let the car run out wide, and put down the power as you go. 7th gear, keep it in 7 so that you use the engine braking for the next corner. Now this corner is a blind one. You can either in qualifying, you can brake at 50 and turn the car in. I like to use the Rolex board on the right. As soon as I pass that, I brake. You know, I can use a bit more of the of the entry curve. It's only painted curve anyway. So brake down to 5th, keep the car tight into the entry, and on the exit, you can use a lot of the curb. If your right hand is pretty good, your throttle input is good, you can keep it straight like this. You have to somewhat aim for the wall, aim for the black box. If you're riding this curve, aim for it. Yeah, that's how I got myself you know, getting the correct line here. And then you have to run very wide on exit just to get the car's momentum going on. Now once you're past that, it's flat out here, DRS activated, stick to the left, stick to the right, and now we're heading into the last chicane of this track. 100-meter board, nope, not 100-meter board, the black box. As soon as I hit that or just past that, I shift down to 6th and I keep it tight on the entry so that I open up the exit. So still a bit of understeer in this setup. It's time trial after all, so it doesn't matter. And not really setting the best lap times here. You can see ideally you want to be a bit tighter on the left. I did miss the entry a bit, but if you do miss it, make sure you do not exit any more than this on the exit. Keep the steering straight and then power out smoothly, and then tuck the car back to the right on this corner here, flat out, DRS wide activated. Okay, and then head down to the next corner. Here again, it's not really a blind braking zone. I like to use the TV on the left. As soon as I hit that, I brake for it, because, you know, one way or another you get a good reference point, or you can use that tent after you pass the 100-meter board, or, you know, just maybe have a good feeling about it between 100 and 50. So maybe around 75 before the black box. Brake. For a qualifying lap, you can go even tighter just to gain time on entry, and then let the car run wide on exit. If you're going for an overtake on someone, actually it's a good idea to, you know, let your car just run a little wider so that you can get a cutback line and a better exit speed onto the pit straight. Anyway, for qualifying, 5th gear on the exit, keep it straight, keep it to the left for the shortest run to the line, and that is a lap of Jeddah. Yeah, that's been a pretty difficult track, but much better in the race, I would say, with you know, different conditions and all. So yeah, good luck with this, and maybe you wanna try high downforce, maybe you wanna try low downforce, maybe you wanna go even lower, 0-0, I don't know. Whatever floats your boat, go for it, try it out, make sure you practice a little bit at least, and you can find out where is your sweet spot. So yep, take care everyone, stay safe, and see y'all next for France. Yeah, that'll be the next setup coming out after this one. So take care, ciao.